Hey, how you doing, Victor? It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining us here at the P3 Studios, the Positive Pomona Production Studio in downtown Pomona.
Right on, man. Thank you. No, thank you for the opportunity. It's been I think it's going to be a great opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about what's been going on, what we've been up to.
Yes. You know, we've been doing this podcast in collaboration with Pomona's Promise. And, Pomona's Promise is all about getting the community organized and to help each other out, to share good news and programs and resources for parents like myself and other community members. So we brought you on today because you have a wonderful program that has been existing here in Pomona for many years. And we really like you to share all about what the club is doing nowadays. But first of all, just to share a little bit with our audience, tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you get into running the club?
Right. Well, yeah, it's a kind of a lifelong story, really. Originally from Peru, and I came here very young at 3 months old, and grew up in Los Angeles, kind of in the Silver Lake Echo Park area. And as a young kid, as a young person, I went to the boys club in Hollywood. So it was a little bit of a distance, but I had some friends that would go. Their parents would take them, so I would go. And I hung out there probably from 7 to about 13 years old, 12, 13 years old. And I was just part of the program, but it's only boys back then. So it was the Boys Club Hollywood. But table tennis, swimming, sports, we even had a wood shop. It was kind of fun place to be, a safe place to be. And when I then ended up going to live in Peru as a teenager, my parents had separated and there was this change in my life. And my mom's like, we're going back to Peru. So for us, it was a little traumatizing at first, but we all moved back, meaning my brother and I and my mom, and spent 6 years in Peru, basically high school, middle school and high school. And, but it was great. It was a great experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. I, somewhat feel fortunate to be able to experience that.
So it seems like full circle. I mean, as a child, it had an effect on you growing up here in America.
Yeah.
And then becoming an adult. When did you come back to the club?
So when I came back from Peru, I came back to go to school. I was at LECC, and then Cal State LA. But during my time in school, my job was, I was working as a lifeguard in multiple different programs at school, and then became like a swim instructor and so on. And one day, 1986, some guy walks into the pool area at LECC and says, hey, we need some lifeguards at the boys club in Hollywood. And I'm like, wow, I used to go there as a kid. And so I checked into it, and it turned out to be not a lifeguard position, but an aquatics director position, someone that was going to run the pool program, the lessons and all that. So I took it on, and I thought I was just going to do it for the summer. And here I am, almost 33 years later, still doing Boys and Girls Club stuff. So that's kind of how I got involved. I went back as a staff, spent about 10 years in Hollywood, and then I went to work for the Challengers Boys and Girls Club in South Central, and then in the Harbor with Harbor City and San Pedro, and then the last 21 years here in Pomona.
21 years.
So it's been a long time in Pomona.
Yes.
So the idea behind all that is, for us now, it's really about having an experience for kids, very similar to the experience that I had, that helped me build who I am today. I wish and intend that for our kids that come here to the club and to our programs to have the same experience or even better.
Yeah. And so what are some experiences that impacted you while you were growing up?
Right. So I always refer to a little story that when I was at the boys club, there was a coach, the guy that ran the swimming lessons. His name was Bryson. He told me one day, he says, hey, Vic, I need for you to do a little flutter kick demo for me in front of the kids. You know, I think that they would learn if you show them what's going on with the flutter kick. I said, oh, okay. So I got my little board and I'm flutter kicking across, and the kids are kind of watching me. And he goes, yeah, you know, Vic's got the best flutter kick at the club. You know, that's how you got to do the flutter kick. And he was kind of using me as a demo. And then after, he says to me, hey, good job, man. Thanks for helping me with the flutter kick demo. Can you do this again like next week? You know, I need for you to do a demo. You have the best flutter kick. Yeah. So that simple little thing that happened a long time ago.
How old were you?
I was probably about 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years old. And that, I remember the smell of the pool. I remember the guy's name. I remember the 5 kids on the wall.
Yeah.
I literally remember the names of the 5 kids on the wall. You know, they were my buddies, or we were kind of like, you know, hanging out and stuff. But the main thing about that is that I remember the way it made me feel. Yeah. I felt like, man, I got the best flutter kick in the club, you know? Right. I didn't know that until this guy told me, right? And when you have kids feeling awesome about something that they do, dude, it just builds them, you know? So in that sense, it was a sense of competence. I didn't even know what the word competence meant back then. Yeah. But the sense of knowing something well enough that someone says, hey, you got the best flutter kick, right? So that's a building block for a kid. You know, again, I'm 7 years old. I don't even understand what's going on. But now as an adult, looking back at that, I want and have made a point for our kids that come to the club to have that experience, have those experiences where they're celebrated for everything that they do well, and they're encouraged when they're not doing things well, right? So that's been a big piece. That is our core at the club. It's called the Youth Development Strategy. Back then they had it. I'm sure they did. I didn't know. I was a kid. But through my career in Boys and Girls Clubs, and now with the Youth and Family Club, we have made sure that that's been not just adopted, but it's been developed, right? So it's called the Youth Development Strategy. It's really a human development strategy.
Yes.
I don't think Boys and Girls Clubs were the inventors of it or the creators. They took it from somebody else, but it works. It's simple. It's very impactful. Its outcomes are tied to feelings. We want kids to feel a certain way, because by them feeling those things, it builds them. It builds their self-value, their self-esteem, and have a better chance in life, right? So that's our core. You know, the experience that I had as a young person at the club also, I learned a whole bunch of stuff: table tennis, sports, swimming. That comment that a staff member made to me around my flutter kick in the water, right? I became a surfer. You know, surfing's a big thing in my life. Water has been in my life since I was a little boy. It continues to be, you know.
Starting with that flutter kick.
Starting with that flutter kick.
Yes.
You know, obviously my dad was the first one that said, you know, you got to learn how to swim.
Yes.
And, but, you know, water and water sports have always been, you know, water polo and surfing and swimming and all these kinds of things. So it's interesting what one thing that someone says to you can impact you for the rest of your life. You know? I can do the flutter kick, then I can do something else pretty good in the water, and something else, and turns into, you know, boogie boarding and then surfing, and to this day I'm still doing that, you know.
And one of the good things is Pomona has a community pool at the club.
That's right.
My little boy is learning to swim there,
there you go.
And hopefully he'll have his experience as well.
That's right.
With that flutter
kick. Our pool's special because it's smaller than the other 2 pools, Washington and Ganesha, which are city pools, great pools. Our pool's smaller, but one thing about our pool, it opens up sooner and it closes later in the sense of the year. So we open as soon as it starts to get warm. Right.
And it's got a nice mural in the background.
It does have a nice mural that you were involved with?
Not that one in particular, but the next one, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's got Nemo and all that kind of scenario going on. But we don't close our pool until some years in November because it's still hot. Some years October, November, and because we don't drain our pool, we have a polar bear club at the club. So we got kids that is the sun's out, they're like, let's get in the pool, even though it's like cold. Nice. Like we've already experienced that now.
Right.
So it's been January, February. It's been raining, but the sun comes out. Can we open the pool?
Yes.
And we do actually open the pool. It's cold. We call it the Polar Bear Club.
You know, I really like watching learning things on YouTube. And there's this neuroscientist, Dr. Andrew Huberman, and he talks about cold plunges and how jumping in cold water has an effect on the body.
Yeah.
It actually builds strength and immunity and resilience. And so I think that's really cool to be able to go beyond just the summertime for those that are interested. And I might even try to jump in that cold pool too one day.
That's
Maybe we got to have a little challenge for somebody from the President's Club.
There you go.
Right.
That's good. That's
okay.
good.
Hey, Victor, we're going to take a short little break, a little station break, and we'll be right back to hear more about the club in Pomona.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
All right.
This podcast brought to you by the Youth and Family Club, also known as Just the Club. You know, you can find us on theclubpomona.org. You can give us a call at our number, which is 909-242-1110. You can also find us on TikTok, Facebook, on LinkedIn.
Okay, hey, welcome back to the Pomona Promise Network podcast. My name is Andrew Quiñones and special guest, Victor Caceres of the club. Hey, Victor. We're just coming out of the post-pandemic COVID-19 worldwide crisis. I really don't want to know how has that affected the club, and how have you guys transitioned out of the whole pandemic era?
Well, right on, man. And let me tell you, for many, including us, pandemic really shook our world, right? But I'll tell you, we navigated COVID probably utilizing all our different talents that we have had in the past. And COVID actually created opportunities for us to serve more children, and not just to serve more children, but to serve them in an even higher impact. And so it really started right when COVID hit, in March of 2020. We shut down just like everybody else. And all of a sudden, we were open virtually a week later. We were doing a teen relationships program, and we were doing an exercise program and an art program that turned into the art program turned into a interior design program, because kids were at home bored out of their minds and not knowing what to do, and they would just jump on. We actually, that first week of Zoom, we saw more kids a day than we were in person prior to COVID. So that was an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we even had 1 hour a day where kids can just drop in and talk about anything they want to talk about. So there was no real theme or class. It was just like, hey, so what's happening, guys? Let's talk, So that's what happened. What's interesting about that is that as an organization, we would meet, board members on Zoom.
Yeah.
And so, what's next? What are we going to do? COVID was like rising and rising. It wasn't getting better. It was like, year one was like this. And we had a board member. We have a board member. His name is John Forbing. He was president at the time. He's like, how come we're not essential workers? It's like we got the hospital people and the police and they're essential workers, but we're essential workers too. It's like, the kids need us and the families need us. And, and I remember him making that comment at a board meeting. Well, the second board meeting, he's like, Victor, I think we need to open back up. Mm-hmm. And we're talking, he said this in a board meeting with other board members saying, John, what are you talking about? No, I think we need to open back up. I think the kids and the families need us. Mm. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, all right, John, okay, let's look at this, right? And so someone makes a motion. Well, Vic, why don't you spend a month figuring out if it's feasible?
Right.
So we took a month and a little longer, and we came up with a plan. We borrowed, and we saw who was open. And there were actually 2 organizations that I knew of at the time in Pomona. One was the Child Development Center, serving 30 kids from Children of First Responders Hospital.
Yes.
The other was the Pomona YMCA that's run by Orange County, the Diamond Bar site. They were open with 30 kids, serving, quote, first responders too. And I'm like, cool. So I went over there, talked to both. They shared their plan. It was a very short plan of like, what do you do to stay open?
Yes.
It had a mix of county guidelines and all this. I called Boys and Girls Clubs of America, said, hey, we're planning to open. Do you guys have something in preparation for your clubs to open in the future? And they were like, you're going to open? I go, yeah, we're going to open. And so they shared what they had. And so we came up with our own plan, and it was a solid plan. We didn't have an exposure for 10 months.
Yeah.
And we were able to see up to 150 kids a day.
And before you move on,
yeah,
today is we're filming this on March 16, 2023.
Oh, that's right.
And just to give a special shout out to your board member, John Forbin.
That's right. It's his birthday.
It is his birthday. So happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, John.
Another community fellow that has been a superstar over the years, right?
He's been a board member for over 40 years at the Boys Club or at the club, and now the Youth and Family Club, 40 plus years.
Wow.
Yeah. But really, you know, he's a hero with him challenging us as an organization that we need to open.
Yes.
And so we opened towards the end of that summer.
And this is an insurance agent.
That's right.
So I mean, for an insurance agent to say we need to open the risk
State Farm
management
Insurance.
person,
State Farm Insurance.
that is pretty bold, right?
That's right.
But a good thing that was done. So continue on, please.
So what happened is, you know, serving 150 kids. Well, like, what'd you do, Vic? Well, kids were now going into a virtual school day, right? So after that first summer, school was going into a virtual school day, which meant, as you know, kids were at home on their little computer trying to log into school with their teachers. And that was across the board. I think the whole country, the whole world was doing that.
Yeah.
Well, here in Pomona, we said, we'll take 100 of those kids that really, really need it because they're logging out or they can't log in or nobody's helping them or whatever to come to the club.
Yeah.
And we have pods of 10, 2 adults, 1 group of 10, which was a little under the numbers of what CDC was. They were saying 12 to 1.
Yeah.
We were doing 10 to 2. And we started to see about 100 a day. And then we were getting calls from principals. Hey, can you take another kid? Hey, can you take a district? Hey, can you take another? So we started taking more kids. We started spreading out. So the whole club, whether it was a gym, the outside, the inside, the art room, the game room, they were all classroom space.
Yes.
All spread out, all masked, all sanitized, and doing work, school. Right. And in between the little sessions, we'd play games with the kids. It was all pods. So if you had 10 kids in a pod with 2 staff, that was for the whole year.
Yeah.
We couldn't mix them. And part of the plan was if one of those got sick, then that pod went home, not the rest.
Interesting.
That was the idea behind that.
Yes.
And so it worked out. When we did get the exposure 10 months later, it was over President's Day weekend in February. It was a staff member and a child that called in that they had COVID. And we knew that they're calling us on a weekend. They were exposed the whole week before while they were at the club.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when they all came back on a Tuesday, because it was like Monday was, you know, the part of the President's Day thing, we all evaluated. We're kind of in fear because, you know, you think about we got 2 kids that got COVID. We got a kid and a staff. They all came in. I said, you know what? We're going to send everybody home, test, and all negatives come back Monday. And so we were out for 4 days. They all came back except for those 2 people. So that meant that our protocols worked because they were exposed the week before. And we had, you know, a really, really good turnout around that. But here's the big thing. You know, COVID, when I say COVID, it made us create new opportunities and new things with our kids. Because you got to think about this. All of us, adults, kids, all over the world, were affected in a very kind of a depressing way. You know, you got to think about, you know, kids coming to the club and being able to log in on you know, an adult helping them and still being in a pod of kids that typically were their family members. So when we created a pod of 10, it didn't mean like all the little kids and all the middle kids. No, it meant this family, because they're already together at home.
Yes.
We don't want to separate them. Then this family, and maybe we got 2 or maybe 3 families in one pod, right? So they would be able to be with them and have some kind of social life.
Yes.
And then do a little bit better in school. But still there was this cloud at the club, right? You know, the stories, you know, my mom got sick, my grandma died, you know, it was not cool. And it wasn't just the kids, the staff, man. Staff were going through the same thing, you know?
Right.
So, I said, you know, we gotta do something about that. So it wasn't just about helping them. It was about maybe encouraging them and start thinking about little brighter days and what's to come and hope, right? And so, you know, we shifted into, with staff, I said, look, we need to start thinking about how it used to be and how it's going to be, right? So what are you missing? What things that you can't do right now that you love to do, you know, whether it was hanging out with your friends or, you know, eating out, going to the movies, going to the beach, playing soccer, whatever it was that you were digging that you can't do right now because of COVID, that would make you happy, right? That was why you just love to do that, right?
Yes.
You woke up in the morning, hey, I'm going to play soccer today. Oh, I'm going to play with my video games, or I'm going to hang out with my buddies, or whatever it might have been. To start thinking about that and to come up with a list of those things, and to think about that's what we're going to strive to do soon, right? So that became kind of a central point for us, and we kind of created the happy list. It wasn't about the goals of being successful anymore. It was the goals of being happy.
Yes,
and so the interesting concept of talking to kids and young adults for our staff, of saying, listen, success can mean different things for you. For kids, it means all kinds of different things. Sometimes I don't even know what that means.
Right.
But happiness is a little easier to understand, and you can relate to it a little bit more because you are happy now. Right. Some kids and some young adults feel they're not successful yet. Right. That's going to be a long time from now. Happy is now. Happy is now. Happy has been. And happy can be, right? And so we said, look, imagine being able to think about that and then develop that.
Yes.
And then all your efforts, school. So now the real reason of going to school isn't for you to be successful. It's for you to continue to be happy.
Yes.
That was like a big thing for us. And so kids can relate to that. So, and we one common denominator on the happy list for kids and our staff was video games. And I'm going to ask you, do you play video games? Maybe, maybe not. You play video games?
Yes.
Maybe not.
I have 2 little boys. They're playing Minecraft now,
right?
And building worlds. And,
all these kids play video games, and their staff play video games, and they're into them. So I said to them, "Hey, listen. So, hey, who got you the video game?" Well, my mom. You know. Okay. How much that cost? I don't know. Some people I know, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know. So we find out that the video games cost some money. The room they're in costs money. The electricity costs money, right? The time that they're spending on the video games may not cost them money, but it's costing somebody money.
Yes.
And I said, look, if you at one point continue to really like your video game thing, and I know a lot of kids that then became adults that continue to play video games, someone's going to have to pay for it because your parents aren't going to pay for it anymore. You're going to turn like 18 and they're like, dude.
Well, we hope not, at least.
Yeah, you know, they're not going to be able to pay for it anymore. They don't want to pay for it anymore. So you know how to make sure that now when you go to school and when you're thinking about school and career, that you don't just get a job or a career that's going to take care of the basics, which is, your rent, place to live, a place to eat, maybe gas, food, transport, the basic stuff, you're going to have that and money to be able to play, because your video games aren't basic.
Right.
Guitar lessons and, basketball and soccer and singing and eating out. That's not basic. That's added luxury stuff. That's like happy stuff. So if you want to do your basic and your happy stuff, you're going to have a good career.
Yes.
You're going to have to that's why you need to be doing well in school. You got to work hard now. So it shifted the kids and our staff, because some staff were in college in a career because they kind of liked the career. They just want something they wanted, but they were in it because it paid well.
Yes.
Right? Which is good. So then our next part of the conversation after they came up with their happy stuff is, imagine when people ask you now, what do you want to do when you grow up? Mm-hmm. That you say, well, listen, I'm still working on that, but I'm going to pull it out of my happy list.
Yeah.
What do you mean you pull it out of your happy? Yeah, I want to do a job. I want to have a career that comes out of my happy list. I like my dog. Like, I love my dog. I want to be a vet. I love to eat. I'm going to be a chef. I like video games. I'm going to design them or sell them. So to find what you thrive on and then create a career around it and create the rest of your life around it. You won't work a day in your life. You'll be happy 8 to 10 hours a day, right, supposedly at work, and then continue at the end of the day. You're lucky, yes, and I'm lucky that we get to do that.
Yes.
And it we
found our
created it.
Right, exactly.
We created our happiness.
That's right.
And so I want our kids to create their happiness,
What a shift in consciousness, and to start at a young age, and especially with our kids here in Pomona, to have a focus, again, not for a financial gain, but to first seek our happiness and to find that. That's
check
important.
This out. Tier 3. Okay. Check this out. This is where it even gets better.
All right.
Tier 3 is where I'm happy because I'm going to go become a vet. Right. I love my dog. I love animals, and I'm going to go to school for that. I'm doing well in school now. I realize that that's what I got to do. I'm going to make other people happy when I take care of their pets. Yeah. I'm going to make the pets happy, and I'm going to make their owners happy, because I'm going to be taking care of them the best way. Like if I'm taking care of my own dog, the fact that I made you happy and taking care of your dog makes me happy. Right. So the happiness all of a sudden just gets even amplified. That's right. You're happier. I'm happier. Everybody's happy. And if you can spread that based on what you do, is just amazing. Right. I'm happy to be here right now telling you this, and you made that happen, Andy, right? So it's kind of like that, right? You're going to give that opportunity to many different people in Pomona to be able to come up and tell their story about what's going on, right? And it makes them happy. It's making you happy because they're happy, right? And then that final tier, I don't call it the final tier. It's the last tier. It's the one that so far is last. There could be something that comes out later, is to be grateful for this stuff.
Yes, gratitude.
We have the opportunity to actually be grateful, right, for something that might have not happened. We created it to happen. It's kind of like creating what wasn't going to happen, right? And so we want our kids to be tooled up.
Yes.
To be able to do that for their lives. Tooled up, prepared to make others happy as well, because that just creates more happiness for them. So that's our big mantra at the club. It's happiness.
Spread happiness, not COVID.
Right? But I'm going to tell you something. The unsung hero in our story is a partnership we have with the Pomona Unified School District. Mm-hmm. Because without them, we wouldn't have had access to kids as we do. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put out a fact right now.
Okay.
We see today 2,000 kids a day. Today. We have never seen 2,000 kids in the history of the club, which is over almost 60 years.
Wow.
And I challenge other boys and girls clubs, are you seeing 2,000 kids a day? And if they are, which some are you serving them with full impact?
Yeah.
So it's not about the numbers. It's about the impact. And I'm going to talk to you about that here in a minute, about the impact.
Okay, because we're going to take a quick little station break, and then we're going to get back and learn about the impact, but also I also want to hear more about your superstar staff, because we know as the executive directors of organizations, our organizations are only as good as the staff.
That's right.
That help to man them. So
that's right.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Right on.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us here at the P3 Positive Pomona Production Studio in downtown Pomona Art Colony. Today's episode is sponsored by the Southern California Service Corps and the Youth and Family Club of Pomona. We'll be right back to hear more. Okay, welcome back to the Positive Pomona Production Studio. You're here with Andrew Quiñones and Victor Caceres, listening to the Pomona Promise Network podcast. Today's special guest from the club, the Youth and Family Club of Pomona Valley, is Victor Caceres. So, Victor, now that we're back, you're going to share a little bit about some highlights, but also your staff. So,
absolutely. So, as you all know, where the rubber meets the road, staff, you're as good as your staff are. The kids, staff that work directly with the kids at the club, on school sites now. I was talking about, serving 2,000 kids a day. We've never been able to do that before. But the real key thing here is not just the numbers of 2,000, it's the impact. Mm-hmm. And, you are as good as your staff. So when we started to look at impact beyond COVID, right, we looked back at impact prior to COVID. And we've always had a strategy at the club. I've always, in my career with Boys and Girls Clubs, we've always talked about the youth development strategy. We've always trained around that. But because of COVID, we had to amplify it. Uh-huh. It wasn't just about, it was a good idea, or if you remember, or no. This is about true intent of impact. If you ever visit the club, and I welcome and invite folks to come out to the club, all our youth wear club shirts. Mm-hmm. They are color coded. They say the club in the front, and in the back it has an acronym: club, C for competence, L for leadership, U for usefulness, and B for belonging. And that's not for the kids because they have no idea what that means. It's for the staff to be reminded every day that their job is through their activities, whether it's basketball, art, helping them with homework, that they're trying to get kids to feel one of those four things. Mm-hmm. And if they can do that with 4, 5, 10 kids a day, that's the job. That's the impact. But it takes a special person to do that. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of they can't be like sitting back and watching the game. You got to get engaged. And so when we started to hire folks, not just for the club program after COVID, but also for the school program after COVID, we would put them through what we call the trial by fire. Throw them in the gym, 20 elementary school kids, run a game. We want to see how you engage, how you introduce yourself, how you introduce the game, how you start the game, and what you do and say during the game.
Yes.
We don't want you watching the game. We want you engaged. What are you saying to them? Hey, you're running faster than I did when I was a kid. Hey, man, you're running faster than last week, dude. Keep it up. High fives, props, accolades. How you end the game. How you give kids a voice in the game. Hey, so what do you guys want to do tomorrow? Hey, let's do this again tomorrow, guys. That was super fun. All right, Jerry says we're going to do it tomorrow. Everybody ready for that? Yeah. Jerry, good idea, man. Jerry gets complimented on his idea on doing this tomorrow, right? The sense of usefulness. So those senses are super important. It's our core. So we train our staff on the core senses of getting kids to feel competent as they learn things, getting them to feel influential and a sense of leadership when they have an idea and they lead others to that. And we acknowledge them and we say, we're going to do it because it was your idea and it's a good idea. When we want them to feel useful when they do something really, really well. And we say, hey, you did that so well. Can you help us with this other group that's not doing it well? Kind of like what happened with me in the flutter kick.
Yeah.
Right? Sense of usefulness. And the sense of belonging, that's the biggie for me. It's in my heart, the sense of belonging. I'll tell you something right now.
Okay.
You got kids coming into the club, and sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad, sometimes they're excited. And when we have our staff greet our kids, they're sensitive to where are they? Hey, Andy, how's it going today? And Andy's like, oh, man, it's a long day today. I'm having, it's going to be a bad day because my mom's going to come pick me up and I got to tell her that I'm failing math and the teacher wants a conference and I know that she already got the phone call and I don't know what to do. And I can't get this fraction thing, you know. And then staff say to Andy, look, Andy, so you got a challenge with fractions. Let me tell you something. We have a challenge with fractions. You and I are in this together. You and I are going to talk to mom when she comes and picks you up. Don't worry about it. We're going to get so good at fractions that we're going to be teaching the other kids in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So don't worry about this. We're in this together. We will not fail.
Yes.
That little conversation that I just had with you that happens at the club, that I train people to do, that I encourage them to do because it's about saving kids, okay, doesn't happen every day, man. It doesn't happen everywhere. And I can tell you, and I can guarantee you it happens at the club. I got principals calling me, hey, Vic, can you come back? Because, see, we're only there for like 6 weeks. And then we hop to another school. And then we hop to another. So we do 6 schools at a time. And 6 schools at a time. And we hit all the 25 elementary schools by the end of the school year. But we got schools that we leave. And they're like, oh, man, you know, come back, you know, because the demeanor of a child that goes through our recess program or our lunch recess program, goes back into the classroom, has changed while we're there. Teachers see it, recognize it, say, hey, we need more of that. Then we leave. And so we're working with our partner, the school district, to see how much more time we can spend more. But it's been an amazing thing. It's I'm so proud of the staff. I'm so proud of these.
Why don't you name some of your staff? You know, I've been there a number of times, and you got 2 brothers from, I want to say, Philadelphia?
They're from Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, okay.
Yeah,
if you are watching this, okay, forgive me,
Matt and Adam. Matt and Adam from Pora. Yeah, they're
a bunch of firecrackers, those guys.
They are. They're loud, you know. They're like Pittsburgh folks. If they start talking to you in Pittsburgh English, you can't understand a word they're saying. But their energy's high. I purposely hired Matt first, you know, when I because of his energy, because of his volume, because he's getting others to emulate that.
Yes, yes.
Kids, you know, kid will walk into the club and Matt will say, hey, how you doing there, John? And he's like, hey, you know, what's going on? Hey, so what'd you have for lunch? Well, I had, you know, a hamburger. Would you bring me some? No, what do you mean you didn't bring me some? You got to save me some for next tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow. So it's that energy that kids like just suck up, you know, and it makes them feel good.
Yes.
It's really about making people feel good, you know, making people feel happy, encouraging them that they could grow and thrive. It's not about survival. Our parents survived.
That's right.
And even with parents who had the resources to thrive, they just survived.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people in our community that have the capacity and resources to thrive, and they don't. They just survive.
Yes.
It's something we're taught. Our kids will thrive. Whether they're making this or this or this, they're going to thrive because they're going to be taught to thrive.
Yes.
And that's super important for us. That's our core. That's who we are. I want to spread the wealth. You know, I'm in the middle right now of talking to, interesting enough, other boys and girls clubs. Because this strategy was around when I was a kid. Yeah. In a lot of clubs, it's gone. They don't even know what it is.
Wow.
They couldn't even tell me what the youth development strategy is. So there's no intent. There's no impactful intent. So they've asked me, especially the old school guys that are about my age, if they come back and train. I said, I'll train, but I need your commitment. I'll tell you what I need your commitment for.
All right.
When I train your staff to do X, Y, and Z, that's going to need volume 12, you know, energy 100, and they can't do it, you're going to lose them. And then to hire them, because they're not going to want to do it for whatever you're paying them.
Right.
To hire the other replacement, you're going to have to pay higher. So that's where your commitment as a director is going to come in. I've had to raise my bar.
Yes.
So I get people that can and want to do it. and start to look at it as what they're going to do for the rest of their life, you know, whether it's at the club.
That impact is that physical impact is an impact for a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, so how important that is, you know, to for the next community members that are going to become adults. So important.
Super important. Super important. So we are grateful.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm super thankful that I get a chance to talk to our community through your program here, Andy. I would love for the city of Pomona, really the city of Pomona, the state of California, and the United States of America, and the rest of the world to adopt this strategy. It's a human development strategy.
Yes.
It works for us. It's impacting everybody that they're attached to, you know, their family members. I got parents saying, what is this thing you're telling my kid that they can do? And they're not, you know, what if they fail? Well, failure is part of being successful. Failure is part of being happy. Failure is part of stepping into, you know, the future, the good future. So,
that's right.
You know, and so more to come. You know, I'll tell you one thing that our latest thing. Okay, the latest thought. And maybe you want me to talk about this in a second, or you want me to talk about it right now?
Well, you know, we'll start closing up in just a minute. But tell me that thought. But also, I want you to share with the community. Now, I'm a parent, so we're hoping that parents get some valuable information as we close out. So just kind of share what does a parent have to look forward to getting their children involved in the club?
Right. So youth at our club are 6 to 17 years old, boys and girls. It's $50 a year to be a member. If you don't have the $50 a year, that's okay. We'll still make them a member.
That's less than $1 a week.
That's right. We'll find a way that you as a parent can give to the club in kind. You know, if you're a carpenter, if you're a painter, if you're a cook, if you're whatever you're doing, give us some of that. We could use it at the club. Don't pay the $50. The point is for them to participate. The point is for them to have access to this program, right? Call us. I gave my number. I'll give it again. It's 909-242-1110. Look us up. Pomona, theclubpomona.org, theclubpomona.org. Our website's got all kinds of information. Come and visit us. We're there at 1420 South Gary Avenue here in Pomona. And we are in multiple schools at any given time. So if you got kids coming to school, ask them, the school, hey, has the club been there yet? Are they coming? Are they there now? Can you make sure my kid participates in that? There's other ways of getting engaged in the impact, right? In that scenario. So,
and of course, you know, the great summer program with the pool, where kids can learn how to swim.
Yeah, summer's right around the corner. You know, we'll have swimming lessons. We have free swim. We have little tournaments, swim meets with other groups that come out and swim. Water polo. We actually teach so we have 2 in-house lifeguards, but then we'll train an additional 4 or 5. Sometimes they come from the club, you know, the good swimmers, and we train them. So there's lots of opportunities this summer. We're back to field trips again because we couldn't do field trips. Now we're back to field trips, which include surfing, sailing, you know, a lot of the water stuff that you know, some of the big parks, then local stuff as well. We'll go and do little mini trips like here in Pomona to, you know, the park out here. What is it called? It's got the lake. Anyway,
Bonelli Park,
you know, because that's an opportunity, and families don't even know about it sometimes, you know. And we have the DAW as a partner. This summer we're going to be doing a partnership with 5 groups, including the DAW, including the school district, the club, a few others, that then kids from the different neighborhoods will be able to do art, will be able to do sports, will be able to do technology, you know, cooking, and all kinds of different things that typically wouldn't have had that opportunity. So
you have a teen center as well?
We have a teen center. So we have 3 buildings. Now we have 4 buildings, actually. The teen center is dedicated space for teens. None of the little kids, meaning 12 and under, can't walk in there, although the teens can be part of the other part of the club. The little kids can't come in the teen center, so we have some specialized programming for teens. Gives them their kind of the sense of belonging to the teen center. It has its own entrance and so on. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this new thing that we're into, and we want to develop. So we just acquired on a lease format the little building that sits in front. So for those that have visited us before, there's always been this little church that sat there for the last 21 years that I've been there, and probably 10 years before that, the little church has been there. So we've always been the club kind of behind the church.
Yeah.
Now we've acquired that on a lease term. So we're going to put the face of the club on there.
Great.
Nice, some landscaping, some signage, some painting, and so on. But that site, that building is going to be known as our Creative Arts Center.
Creative Arts Center.
Creative
Wonderful.
Arts Center. Lots of emphasis on art, digital arts, performing arts, all the different arts that you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But and from that, not necessarily everything will just be there, but it'll be led from there because there'll be some infusion into the rest of the facilities with art, the creative side of things. We want to kids not just to develop creativity, but to also find ways for our programs through our staff and through the interaction to develop creativities, playing basketball,
Yes.
doing homework, playing drums, whatever it is, doing a woodshop program, dancing. How do we create the creativity, right? How do we develop the creativity? And then there's this one awesome thing, man, that just came to us from this guy that actually was talking to us about artificial intelligence, AI, right? He says, look, Vic, one thing that you can do to develop at your club, that AI will have probably a longer time to get their hands around it.
Mm-hmm.
So which means your kids today and your staff and your adults can spend time developing, and it'll always be an edge they will have in their future jobs, careers, is uniqueness. So check this out. All three of us in this room, we're unique to ourselves. You got certain things you dig and that you like and that you're really good at, as well as maybe things that you're not good at. Same thing with this gentleman here and myself. I'm unique. I love water. You may not like water. You may not even know how to swim. I don't know. You're into traveling. I'm traveling. So that's kind of like, into that unique side of things. But think about this. We have our kids that sometimes we say to them, well, he's got autism. And it makes it seem like a bad thing. So he's unique.
Yeah.
How can we get his autism, wherever he is in the spectrum, to make it a good thing?
Right.
And there are kids that have been able to develop things because they're stuck on something.
Right.
That can tell you stuff that you can't even figure out on your own because they spend all day thinking about that.
Yes.
So all kids are unique to something and multiple things, but they don't like talking about it because it's kind of weird. It's like their weird side, It's like, well, I don't want to talk about that. No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's develop it. Let's help you. Because that's going to make you stronger. And guess what? You have that. Nobody else has that. That's what's going to be the difference when it comes to when everybody's trying to put everybody in the same box. You're not going to fit in that box. You're going to create your own box. And so uniqueness for us is a really interesting thing for us. So, and you talk to any kid, they're going to say, oh, I come into cars, or there was this kid that never worked on a car, doesn't even know mechanics, but can listen to a car and tell you what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
And has a slight autism, but has been able to focus on that for some reason and been able to read. So never had practical.
Yes.
Been able to read and connect sounds to what's happening with the car.
Right.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No.
This guy can do that. And imagine if he could do that.
Right.
What else can he do?
And it's always often about having those special adult mentors in our life that can help channel those energies.
Develop that.
And develop it.
Find it.
Right.
Glorify it. Celebrate it. Yeah. Develop it and put them out there. We're talking about tools. They got some extra tools.
Right.
They got some extra tools. So thank you, man. I really appreciate you. You're a spirit in this community that we need more of. I think we need to be able to celebrate Pomona, celebrate who we are, and really know who we are. And I think we're in that journey right now, finding out the services, the jewels, the gold that exist here, and more importantly, giving the rest of our community access to that and knowledge of them. And so I think that's beautiful. I'm part of the effort around that. I know you go back as far back to with the Youth and Family Master Plan that turned into Pomona's Promise, and now is still. But the same challenge of connecting services with people in the community, and most importantly, the one who needs them the most.
Yes.
So like homeless services, for example, we have them, but there's still folks that need it the most that can't access them, don't know how to access them. Right. Food, same scenario. Counseling, immigration services, education, just it's a gamut. And there's so many organizations in Pomona. I'm a proud Pomonan. I've lived here since 2006. Been working here since 2001. I consider myself a Pomonan now.
Yes.
And it's interesting because someone corrected me one day. You're not a Pomonian, you're a Pomonan.
You're a Pomonan.
I'm like, okay, cool. All right, I'll be a Pomonan. But I am proud of where I come from too. LA was challenging growing up. Matter of fact, when I moved to Pomona, I was like, man, this is like Disneyland compared to where I come from.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
But then it's a perspective. It's like other people think that Pomona's crazy, and it's never perfect. Nowhere is never perfect. But I love Pomona. I love the kids and the families here, and really the opportunity to make a difference.
Right. Now, Victor and I have known each other for at least 20 years now, since the early 2000s. We've been both working in the realm of serving youth. My particular forte was high-risk, high-need youth on probation, gang-involved youth. And like Victor said, we've been doing this for some time, and it's finally culminated to a point where now maybe the technology, and even after coming out of COVID, we're doing a lot more connecting now, and we're not living to survive, but we want to thrive.
That's right.
and find our happiness.
That's right.
And one of the reasons why I created this podcast was a way to reach the greater Pomona audience, for parents to be able to hear what people like us are doing to make a positive difference within our community.
That's right.
So for you listening out there, we really hope that you like the content that you're hearing from us, and that you like and you subscribe and you share with others, because we have a goal to highlight the positive aspects of Pomona and the good work that the good people are doing to make this community a thriving community that welcomes parents and families and children to be happy and to thrive in our community.
That's right. That's right. Hablamos español también, just to make sure.
That's right.
We have a lot of our staff hablan español. Los invitamos para que venir a visitarnos, a mirar lo que estamos haciendo y a ver si es algo que desean que nosotros podamos hacer impacto con sus niños también.
So as we bring it out to a close, give them your website address again. And your number, and again, the best way to reach you guys again.
Absolutely. The Club Pomona, theclubpomona.org is our website. 909-242-1110 is our phone number. 1420 South Gary Avenue on the south end, across the street from the CVS, is where our main clubhouse is. But keep in mind, we will be in all the elementary schools this year. We're currently at 6. Find out which 6 those are, and see if your kids are going to those schools, because they can be encouraged to participate in the activities that we run on the school sites as well.
All right. And I want to thank Angel Arellano, our behind the scenes audio video that's helping us here at the P3 Studios. And again, we thank you for joining us for this edition of the Pomona Promise Podcast Network with our special guest, Victor from the club. Again, my name is Andrew with the SoCal Service Corps, and we look forward to seeing you next episode.
Right on.
Peace.
Thank you, Andy.
All right.
Right on, man. Thank you, dude.
Man. All right. Eso.
I appreciate you. Angel.